Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away. And his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it. And he's over. What? Franco Harris. Grabbed the ball on the deflection. 5 seconds to go. He grabbed it with 5 seconds to go and scored.
Let's watch this
1 million
again.
to 1 odds on this one.
Ricochet out there off of Jack Tatum and into the Man of the Year, Franco Harris's hands.
Here's the miracle of all miracles.
From out of nowhere came Franco Harris, riding a white stallion, heading up Franco's Italian army, and galloping off into the sunset.
The Immaculate Reception is one of the most famous plays in the history of American football. It occurred in the AFC Divisional Playoff game of the National Football League between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on December 23, 1972. With the Steelers trailing on 4th down with 22 seconds left in the game, Pittsburgh quarterback Terry Bradshaw threw a pass targeting John Fuqua. The ball either bounced off the helmet of Raiders safety Jack Tatum or Fuqua's hands, and Steelers fullback Franco Harris caught it just before it could hit the ground and ran for a game-winning touchdown. The play has been a source of unresolved controversy and speculation ever since, as many people have contended that the ball only touched Fuqua's or that it hit the ground before Harris caught it, either of which would have resulted in an incomplete pass by the rules at the time. Kevin Cooks, the last Headbangers, cites the play as the beginning of a bitter rivalry between Pittsburgh and Oakland that fueled a historically brutal Raiders team during the NFL's most controversially physical era, the 1970s. The era that I started watching pro football. NFL Film has chosen as the greatest play of all time, as well as the most controversial. The play was also selected as the greatest play in NFL history in the NFL's Network 100 series. The play was a turning point for the Steelers, who reversed 4 decades of futility with their first playoff win ever and went on to win 4 Super Bowls by the end of the 1970s. The play name is pun derived from the Immaculate Conception, a dogma in Catholic Church. The phrase was first used by Myron Corp, a Pittsburgh sportscaster who was reporting on the Steelers' victory. A Pittsburgh woman, Sharon Lebowski, called Cope before his 11 p.m. sports broadcast on the 23rd and suggested the name, which was coined by her friend Michael Ord. Cope used the term on television, and the phrase stuck. The phrase was apparently meant to imply that the play was miraculous in nature. In short, it's one of the most famous plays in NFL history. As an OG National Football League fan, and only old fellow OG football fans would know the name Franco Harris. I'm paying homage to Franco Harris because he passed away yesterday. Franco Harris died on December 20th, 2022, 3 days before the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. He was 72 years old. The cause of his death has not been announced. Franco Harris, born March 7, 1950, was an American professional football player who played running back in the National Football League for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks. He was a key player in one of professional football's most famous plays, dubbed the Immaculate Reception by Pittsburgh sportscaster Myron Cope. After playing college football for the Penn State Nittany Lions, he was selected by the Steelers in the first round of the 1972 NFL Draft, the 13th overall pick. He played his first 12 years in the National Football League with the Steelers. His 13th and final year was spent with the Seahawks. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1990. In his professional career, in his first season with the Steelers in '72, Harris was named the league's Rookie of the Year by both the Sporting News and United Press International. In that season, he gained 1,055 yards on 188 carries with a 5.6 yards per carry average. He also rushed for 10 touchdowns, caught 4 touchdown passes. He was popular with Pittsburgh's large Italian-American population. Harris was chose 9 consecutive Pro Bowls, 72 through 1980, and was All-Pro in 1977. Harris rushed for more than 1,000 yards in 8 seasons, breaking a record set by Jim Brown, who by many considered the greatest running back of all time. The running back tandem of Harris and Rocky Bleier combined with a strong defense to win 4 Super Bowls following the 1974, 75, 78, and 79 seasons. On January 12, 1975, he was the most valuable player of Super Bowl IX. I was 8 years old. In that game, scratch that, I was 10 years old. In that game, he rushed for 158 yards and a touchdown on 34 carries for a 16-6 win over the Minnesota Vikings. Harris was the first African-American as well as the first Italian-American to be named Super Bowl Most Valuable Player. Harris was a major contributor for the Steelers in all of their first 4 Super Bowl wins. His Super Bowl career totals of 101 carries for 354 yards are records, and his 4 career rushing touchdowns are tied for the second most in Super Bowl history. Harris also scored a touchdown in each of the Steelers' 4 Super Bowl wins in the 1970s, the only player to do so. With the retirement of O.J. Simpson, the Juice, after the '79 season, Harris became the career rushing leader among active players. Following the 1983 season, Harris and Walter Payton, Sweetness, who was called Sweetness, were both chosen on Jim Brown's closing on Jim Brown's NFL rushing record. And Harris asked the Rooney family for a pay raise. The Rooney family refused, believing that Harris was on the downside of his career, and Harris threatened to hold out. The Steelers relieved Harris in training camp in 1984, and he eventually signed with the Seattle Seahawks during the 1984 season. He played just 8 games with the team, gaining on 170 yards before retiring with 192 yards short of Jim Brown's record. In his 13 professional seasons, Harris gained 12,120 yards. At that time, the 3rd all-time in the history of the league, on 2,949 carries, an average of 4 yards per carry. Scored 91 rushing touchdowns, at that time the 3rd best of all time. He caught 370 passes for 2,870 yards, a 7.4 yard per reception average, and 9 receiving yards. Harris' 12,120 career rushing yards ranked him 12th all-time in the National Football League, while his 91 career rushing touchdown ranked him 10th all-time with Jerome Bettis. Here's some accolades of this man. 6'2", 230 pounds. 4-time Super Bowl winner. Super Bowl MVP. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1972. NFL Man of the Year in 1976. First Team All-Pro 1977. 2-time Second Team All-Pro 72 and 75. 9-time Pro Bowl 72 to 1980. NFL Rushing Touchdown Leaders 1976. NFL 1970s All-Decade Team. Pittsburgh Steelers All-Time Team. Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor. Pittsburgh Steelers number 32 retired. Pittsburgh Pro Football Hall of Fame. As you know, I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I'm a National Football League fan, and I'm a sports fan. But I recognize greatness, and I'm going to honor greatness and give homage to greatness, and that being Franco Harris. Franco Harris could have played on the Dallas Cowboys. I would have loved to have him. Any fan would have loved to have that type of player. He was an ambassador off the field and a heck of a football player on the field. My hats off to Franco Harris and his family. The National Football League was a better league because of Franco Harris.